Hi, this is Deborah Roth from Spirited Living, back with another Inner Goddess Team video. Each week when we really dive into the Divine Feminine and all of the ways, all of her qualities that we all desperately need in our world today. Oh boy, now more than ever. Empathy, collaboration, cooperation, so much more. When you check out this video on my YouTube page, if you're not there already, you'll see a little eye in the corner that will give you a much broader idea, a much broader introduction to who and what the Divine Feminine is about and why we need to have it and her in our lives. So this week, we are focusing on the Greek goddess of Aphrodite. And it's interesting. Everybody thinks, and she is in some ways, interchangeable with Venus. So I thought, oh, of course, of course I've done a video in the last, I've been doing this for 2 years now, a video on Aphrodite. I've referred to her in the Venus video, but what was really interesting was to dive in, as I love to do when I look at these goddesses every month, and to determine how they're different. And yes, there is a lot of interchange. They both, Aphrodite and Venus, were known, and Aphrodite is the Greek goddess. Venus is the Roman goddess, and yes, there's probably a little bit more. The Romans were made a bigger deal about their goddesses. There are more Venus festivals than there are Aphrodite festivals in the Grecian times. And in fact, that's why we're honoring the Festival of Aphrodisia right now, which is the big festival that honored her, other than her birthday, which it was in April sometime in Greece. That was the time, it was usually sometime in July or August, when all of her temples were cleaned and there were sacrifices made, and which you don't like to think about that, but her symbols, Aphrodite's symbols, were the dove, myrtle, the plant, the flower, the myrtle flower, and the rose. And in her celebrations for the Aphrodisia festival, they sacrificed a dove in her name, and that was the only blood sacrifice that was allowed to happen. Then there were, after that, there were sacrifices of wine and gold and other offerings in her name. Now, as I always say, yes, she was celebrated this particular time of year, in July and August, somewhere in there. But you can embody the energy of Aphrodite all year round, of course. She was the goddess, is the goddess of, as was Venus, of love and beauty, of sensual connection. She also, because of her connection with Mars, with the god Mars, was connected with war, which I thought was kind of interesting. I didn't know that about her. So this is a time when you invoke Aphrodite, you are invoking the need to acknowledge and embrace your own beauty, to acknowledge beauty in the world. And that can be a tough one for some of us. We don't generally look in front of the mirror and say, oh, how beautiful we are. But that's one of the things that Aphrodite, what her energy, what her symbolism, what her archetype reminds us to do. Now, she, of course, was beautiful. All the Greek goddesses were beautiful. This is probably a very familiar image of her. This is actually see, here's the interchangeable piece. This is actually Venus rising from the sea, that was in the Roman version, that was created from this, which is also going to be familiar to you, very famous painting by the Roman artist Botticelli. So and that's part of her mythology. She was born, no mother. She was born when Kronos chopped off the genitals of his father Ouranos in order to take over the king of the gods, and threw them into the sea, threw his genitals into the sea. And from the foam that resulted, that's what that is. It's the foam and the shell That's the place that's from whence Aphrodite was born. And as obviously that gets carried into Roman times in her personification as Venus. So I'm not going to go through a whole list, I mean, of her mythology because she's one of those really familiar ones. Sometimes I bring up the ones that are not so familiar, at least to me, because I think it's interesting to know. But all of her, she when you need to tap into your own sexuality, your own sensuality, representative of she was married to Hephaestus, who was the crippled metal god. I'm forgetting what that's called. But she also messed around with all kinds of other gods and mortals. And he, in fact, entrapped her in an invisible net when she was fooling around with Mars. She also she fell in love with mortals and was punished for that. One of her big ones that most of us have heard about is that when she was in competition with Hera and Athena as to who was the most beautiful, it was Zeus suggested that they take it to Paris, who was to make the decision who was the most beautiful, and each one of the goddesses offered him something to bribe him. And Aphrodite bribed him and said, if you pick me as the most beautiful, then you can marry Helen and have the most beautiful woman in the world. And that's what started the Trojan War. So much for that bribe. So I think as I said, rather than to go into countless other myths that are around and about her, just talking about some of the things that I didn't know so much about. Now, she had different loves that she represented. One was Aphrodite Urania, which symbolized spiritual or celestial love. And then there was also Aphrodite Pandemos. And this went even beyond the sex or romantic love, which is what she's typically known for, but represented earthly, non-spiritual love. And actually, it was very much about creating civic or interpersonal harmony. So and these did not carry over, remember, into Venus. She also was said that she evolved from the Mesopotamian goddess of love, which was Ishtar, also associated with Isis. So there's lots of her energy that's because, of course, every culture has and had their goddess of love and sexuality. What else do I want to tell you about her? I think that's without going into all the myths. Let's see. She was interesting. She also, once before Venus, because they were happening at the same time, before Venus was influenced by Aphrodite, she was Venus in Italy in the Roman times was the goddess of fertility also, vegetable gardens, fruits, and flowers. So I would encourage you to take on the energy of Aphrodite when you could do it when you want to do something as mundane as decorate your house. You might do it when you are when you are in need of remembering your own beauty, both inner and outer. I think that's a huge thing for women, also for men, but particularly for women, because we get so many mixed messages, putting it nicely, from the rest of our society about this kind of thing. So I'd love to hear how, if any, what your relationship is with Aphrodite. You can always comment here if you're watching this on Instagram or Facebook Live, on my YouTube channel, where it will be up tomorrow with a more of a description. And I invite you, probably your biggest question for reflection is, how can you embrace and accept the beauty of your own being? And I will leave with you this, one of my favorite chants, songs from Libby Roderick, that I've sung in my new moon circles very often when we're either celebrating Venus or when we're talking about self-love, which is a big thing here. And it goes like this. How could anyone ever tell you that you're anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you that you're less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your love is like a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. Isn't that beautiful? Very low. Yes, I always work with Oshun. She's definitely another one of the, thank you, Camilla. She's definitely another one of the connected, one of the orisha, Oshun, is definitely connected to Aphrodite as well, as is Freya. I mean, I didn't go through all of them, but they're, in many traditions, there is an embodiment of the goddess of love. I will sing this one more time, slightly higher. And again, look up Libby Roderick. Her whole album, I think, is, oh yes, Camilla says, I'm pregnant and will sing it to my child. Oh, that just makes me cry. Congratulations, Camilla. Beautiful song to sing to your baby. All right, let's sing it together. And I will include the words on the YouTube description as well when it's up there tomorrow. How could anyone ever tell you that you're anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you that you're less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your love is like a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. Enjoy all. Sing this to yourself. Sing this to the people you love. Sing this to your children, born and unborn. And enjoy loving yourself, finding the beauty in yourself. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you back here soon.